Okay, it's time to commit. 2024 is the year for prioritizing yourself. Begin your new smile journey with Byte, and you could start seeing results in just 2 to 3 weeks. Just order your at-home impression kit today for only $14.95 at Byte.com. Byte clear liners are doctor-directed and delivered to your door. Treatment costs thousands less than braces, plus they offer financing options, accept eligible insurance, and you could pay with your HSA, FSA. Get 80% off your impression kit when you use code WONDERY at Byte.com. That's BYTE.com. Start your confidence journey today with Byte.
Want to teach your kids financial literacy, but not sure where to start? Greenlight can help. With Greenlight, parents can keep an eye on kids' spending and saving, while kids and teens use a card of their own to build money confidence. As a parent, you can send instant money transfers, set up chores, automate allowance, and more. It's a convenient way to run your household, customized to your family's needs, and the easy way to raise financially smart kids. Get started with Greenlight today and get your first month free at greenlight.com/Wondery.
Edit audio.
Hello, everyone. I'm Robin Hopkins, and this is Well Adjusting, where I talk to people about life stuff, but not in an NPR way. It's more like we're at the bar, having cocktails, getting into your business sort of way.
It's giving drunk NPR.
Oh, and producer Steph is here too.
Hello.
Today we chat, well, climbing out of a hole. Hello, friends. Welcome back to another Well Adjusting. Today, Lauren is joining us, and let me tell you, okay, she has had a rough go of things. Over the last few years, she moved to another country, she depleted her savings while navigating visa issues, she set up a new freelance lifestyle that hasn't exactly gelled, and she dealt with the aftermath of a cancer diagnosis. So, yeah, a lot. But this is a really wonderful conversation where we get into the idea of letting yourself live, taking back choice when you haven't had freedom for a while, and trusting that, the other shoe may not necessarily drop. There is just too much goodness in this conversation for me to keep yammering on here, so let's get right to it.
So my name is Lauren. I'm 33. I live in Barcelona, Spain. I'm originally from the US. Right now I'm a freelancer, so specifically in social media marketing, content creation, and the climate solutions space.
Wow.
So I've been kind of struggling with just the balance of self-care, finances, and like everything that goes into being self-employed. I think it's a big question, right? And I think, when you don't have that buffer of sick time, vacation time, dedicated time that's like banked and set aside for things like needing a mental health day or needing, to take care of, or like your dog gets sick or things like that. Like we just don't have that bank of time. So how do you balance that? I feel like there's been a lot of anxiety about money and finances and making sure that I'm, getting the right amount of hours in per day. And like, that's just not realistic all the time when life gets in the way, or just when you're managing your own business, things come up and maybe you spent the whole day working on like taxes or something, and that's not billable time. So
it sure is not.
Yeah. So how do you mitigate that? And I think there's kind of a second layer to this with the move abroad and a lot of life changes as well. And there's a lot of growing pains with that. So I think those are kind of the two forks, I guess.
Two tines on the fork.
Tines on the
if
fork.
you will.
Yeah. Those are kind of the primary things that bring me here.
Well, I want to say this. I'm me, so I immediately want to start listing off 100 solutions and things, but I'm going to stop myself from doing that right now. And I want to ask you this question, this problem, how's it presenting for you? You kind of gave a little bit of a forward, I think, with the word anxiety, but like what's showing up for you in your day-to-day?
Day-to-day, I think I just recently heard the term like mental flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, the idea of like, if I have a set plan of like, this is how my day is going to go, this is what I'm going to do, and that's not how that goes, I think it does make me super anxious. Like, how am I going to get these hours in? How am I going to get this time in? How is I don't know. I think there's just, lack of flexibility, I guess. And, especially when you move abroad, there's so many things that you have to handle that like come up unexpectedly sometimes. And so I think it's just been kind of like me noticing that when those things do come up, I'm feeling maybe flooded or feeling like just, I guess anxious is probably the right term.
I mean, in my head, I was going anxious.
Yeah.
And do you take time off? What's your self-care look like?
I think I do take breaks. Like I do take breaks throughout the day. And I think that is something I've been really good about since moving here and since working for myself, especially with like the Spanish schedule. Like I take a long one. That's the biggest meal of the day here. It's right in the middle of the day at 2:00. So I take, the long lunch. I have that time with my partner. We have sobremesa, which is like the time after lunch where you talk. And maybe I walk my dog. So I always have that in the center in the middle of the day. I guess I try to stick to weekends as well and like give myself weekends.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I also
this is all good.
Yes, all good things.
Well, I'm hearing good things. I love this.
I dance twice a week. I don't know if I'm taking Catalan classes. That's like the local language here.
Okay.
I don't know if that counts because it's kind of for fun, but it's kind of to be here. But I do feel like the place I'm a little stuck is like a lot of my self-care feels, with the exception of the lunch, a lot of my self-care feels kind of like I'm checking the boxes, right?
Prescriptive.
Yeah. So like, oh, it's the weekend. That means I must be offline. But I still check my email, which is
we all check our emails. That ship has sailed.
Yeah.
So that's one way it's presenting, is that we've got a little prescriptive self-help. But like, how else? Tell me how the anxiety's showing up for you. Because I think, because it's like, some of this is, to me, a balance. Like, it's just, it's a new way of being. Like, working for yourself is a totally different way of thinking. There is no safety net.
Yeah.
You are your own safety net.
Absolutely.
So some of that is just adapting to it, but I want to see how else it shows up so we can look at that.
I think there are days when I show up and I begin to work and I feel extremely burnt out, right? And I'm like looking at the clock, looking at my spreadsheet of what I have planned to do that day, the hours I plan to complete, and I'm like, this is not going to happen,
Yeah.
And not only is it not going to happen, if I forced myself to make it happen, it would be a disservice to myself and to my client, right? Like it would be bad work. I wouldn't feel good about it. So I am good about not forcing myself on those days to do it. But the amount of shame and like, the drag of, and the mental back and forth of like, should I try? Should I push it? Should I just let this day go? Should I, and it's like I lose a whole day where I could have just been relaxing anyways,
Yes. I think about that all the time. Like I'll have days where I'm not feeling it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And which sounds like a really either privileged or like a weird way to be like, I'm not feeling it. Yeah. But it's like there's days where it's really hard to motivate you when you are your own village. And those days I'll sometimes sit and just be fucking around. Like I'm like on social or I'm texting people or I'm taking phone calls. And then I think to myself, why did I not just declare this? Like I'm going to take this and I'm going to pick up Saturday instead. Right. Like that would have been a better use of my time. So I completely understand what you're saying.
Normally what I'll do is kind of spiral for a few hours where I like back and forth at the desk, like, I gotta make this work. I gotta do this.
Some good spiraling. We love it.
And then maybe I'll sort of give up, or I'll be like, well, let me just plan my next week instead. So I'll kind of plan out like, because usually it's like Friday when this happens, right? So I'll be like, well, let me just plan out like what I'm gonna do next week in hours and things like that. Or maybe I'll look for more work or do like more admin things that aren't billable. And then maybe I'll do that for 30 minutes until I burn out from doing that. And then eventually I just kind of like give up and close the computer and move on with my night. But the thing I'm also kind of getting stuck on lately is like, oh, well, if I'm not working, when I'm going to go grocery shopping or I'm going to clean or I'm going to, take something else off on the list that I should be doing. That's not work stuff. But so I'm getting kind of stuck in that pattern where it's like, I'm not working, but I'm not resting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it sounds like there's like a couple of things here, right? So it's like you're mentioning burnout, but then also like just this guilt and shame of what you're doing, right? And not, it feels like you're fighting against your setup. And so like, I first want to talk about the burnout. Like, are you like, if you were working for Corporation A doing what you're doing, you went in at 9, whether it be virtual or hybrid or full-time in person, and you wrap around 6, whatever the time is, would you be feeling the same burnout with the type of work and the amount of work you're doing?
Oh, I'm not sure because I think potentially I would be feeling burnout in a different way.
In what way?
I have leaned quite heavily into like the flexibility of my schedule now, especially with my clients are in the US, so I have a time difference, which means I don't ever have to be up before noon if I don't feel like it,
Right.
And I think, there would be so much weight lifted if I was a regular employee, doing a 9 to 5, and I could see myself, having less stress and burnout in that regard. But then at the same time, like not being able to have the flexibility of time or like take breaks during the day when I need it, I think would also wear on me. So I think I'm sort of, maybe it is a factor of like getting used to just the essence of being a freelancer and the lack of security.
Yeah, because like in everything that you're saying, I don't hear anything being about the work.
Right. It's
not that you're doing too much work, is it?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe I feel hesitant to say that because I feel like
do you have lazy syndrome? Like you're afraid you don't do enough?
I think so. I think that's partially why I've gravitated to moving to Spain. I mean, I love Spain a lot, but one of the reasons I always wanted to move here is because I don't even think I actually knew what relaxing was until I moved here. I don't think we know what it is in the US. It's like, productivity is like gold. So I think I am good about like not overdoing it. I do kind of push it sometimes, especially with the time difference. I have later meetings. They can go even as late as like 9 or 10 p.m. And I kind of do push that. But for the most part, I'm pretty good about in terms of like the amount of work.
Yeah.
I think it's more of an issue with motivation, like not spiraling a little bit before leading up to it. Yeah.
Lauren, it does sound like it's a default setting a little bit of like, I'm not working hard enough. I'm not doing enough, because you have yourself a little bit in like a catch-22, like you're damned if you do. I'm going to just throw out every, you're damned if you do, or you're damned if you don't. But like in the one instance, if we move you over and say, oh, like, what if you had a corporate thing? Even in a made up scenario, your brain immediately went to, well, then I'd probably be mad that I lost the flexibility. And then if we bring you over here and we talk about this setup, then you're like, but then I'm trying to relax, but then I'm sort of lazy. So it's like you have yourself in a like no-win scenario. So I want to ask you if you know. And I think it's important to say if you know, because you may not. If you know, what would be the setup? Like, what would your life look like in relation to your work where you would feel happy and perhaps a little more at peace and a little less anxious? Like, can you imagine what that scenario would be?
I'm not quite sure. Like, I feel like I've been figuring that out, actually. I think it would be something maybe with a little bit more community than being a freelancer. Like I kind of came across this, like being in the position of being a freelancer almost by accident, with just like different, what's allowed with my visa, what's not, what I can do. And like, I just like didn't ever envision myself doing this. It's in terms of working for myself. And I've been pleasantly surprised by a lot of things, but then certain things are also like, the security and the fear and like kind of you being your own asset in your own company is the part that always got me nervous about it. So maybe if I was able to have the level of flexibility I have, but also have community, like maybe a co-working space or something, but coming into a space where I'm like seeing the same faces every day. I love small talk. I love chatting. I love, things like that. So, getting to actually have that like FaceTime with people, I think that would probably be more ideal.
I found myself in a really similar situation. Like I kind of didn't mean to become a freelancer and did. And I had been in a corporate setup for 20 years. And I'll tell you what, I miss my holidays. I miss my paid holidays. I miss my paid sick days. I mean, it's like every time you turn around, there's some holiday where you're like, oh, I'm not getting paid this week, that day. So there's a lot of things that you have to do to take care of yourself. And if you're an anxious person, that's going to definitely, like I have anxiety around money. So that's definitely going to ratchet up So the self-care is going to be really important. But I think there's a bunch of tools that you could look at, and you identified the first one. Like, it could be working out of a library, could be like on Tuesdays you work out of this cafe, but then all the other things, like just accepting that you are in this situation. And being like, okay, it is what it is. I am a freelancer. So that means I have to pre-save for holidays. You know, we did an entire episode about freelancer spending and stuff like that that aired a couple months ago. Folks should listen to that if you haven't already. But so like pre-saving for your money to make sure that you are okay. And then like getting up and taking a walk in the morning, or having a walk at the end of the day to start your day and end your day. Like all those like little tips and tricks that help you separate Lauren from Lauren at work. Because I think when it's you working out of your bedroom, it gets real blurry real fast.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a dog, so I'm kind of forced to take a lot of walks every day, which is good. But I think there is a little bit of a blur in terms of like work life versus regular life. And also just, I have email on my phone. I have Teams on my phone. I have whatever communications we're using for work. It's like, I'll see that right away on my phone. And sometimes with the time difference, it's like 11 o'clock at night or midnight that somebody might IM me. And so I have to be really mindful. Like, I know there's settings of,
do not
rest.
Disturb.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, this is my rest time. But yeah, I do feel like I do have some of that in place. But I think in terms of physical, like where I'm physically going to work, I think that I like the idea of, libraries, cafes. I think one of the reasons I don't always use those spaces is maybe because I'm trying to be more conscious about spending. Like, I mean, libraries are obviously free, but, and also I think cafe culture there is a little different here as well. Like, there are some cafes where people come work, but it's not
Starbucks in the US.
Yeah, it's not exactly that. Like, there's one in my neighborhood where I do know, like, oh, people come here to work. Like, this is kind of a working cafe. But I guess I have a little bit of, maybe this is a little bit piece of it. Like, I have a little bit of guilt being like working remotely for a US company. There's like a huge problem with gentrification here. I feel guilty being like so public about it, like I don't want to be part of that problem, and I don't.
I mean, I get that, but it's happening. Like, whether you go to the cafe or not,
right?
It's happening. So it's just the judgment you put on it.
Right.
It's like, if you have to sit with your heart, and if you feel like, oh, I'm contributing to a problem, then you make a decision if you want to continue it. But if it is what you want to do, then you got to do it and embrace it because you're doing it.
Right.
To hide yourself away in your apartment because you're afraid of what other people think is just you're hurting yourself. You're not putting yourself first.
Right. No, I think that's a great point. I think it's part of, I think it's part of a reckoning as well of like moving somewhere else. I want to be so mindful of like not being like an ugly American, somewhere abroad. And I think
I'm just not worried about that with you. You don't present in that way. So I'm not concerned about that for you.
That's good. I appreciate that.
We've talked a lot about anxieties, but I can't fully like identify like what the anxieties are. And I don't know if you have that identified yet either, or if that's like future homework, but like,
is it money?
It sounds
is it no safety net? Is it?
Yeah. There's a piece around like community. There's a piece around security, but I'm unclear about like what the security is. So like, do you feel like you have those defined in your head, heart, anxiety box?
Yeah, I was thinking about this a lot kind of coming into today. I think for me and my partner to be able to do this move, like we were like all in, like we sold everything we owned. I knew with the visa situation, I wouldn't be able to work my first year here. So that was planned. But the plan was always to get a job at the end of it. I got to the final stages of interviews with this big company and they were like, we're not going to sponsor a visa. Then I got an offer from another company. And then a week before Christmas or 2 weeks before Christmas, they were like, sorry, we had a reshuffling of organization in the company and like can't. So for like 2 weeks before Christmas, I had to like find a new visa. I put a bunch of money into getting a TEFL because I thought, oh, I'll just like stay here and teach English. Then they changed the laws about what was needed for an English teaching visa, like that year. So my visa was denied. I had to find a new way to renew. So it's just been this scramble of like all in, all my savings are in. I feel like I've invested so much in this move and being able to come here. This is a dream I've had for a long time where I lived here 10 years ago. Well, I lived in southern Spain 10 years ago, and I wasn't able to return because I actually got sick and I had to stay in the US. So this is like, we're finally able to do it. I'm finally able to live here. And I think there's it's like almost a pressure cooker of like, I want this to work so bad. And it's like socially, like I want to have roots here. I want to be part of the community. I don't want to be the ugly American. I want to be respectful of where I'm at. I want to, feel financially stable. I want to feel like we've landed, and it's so much, right? And I feel like there's so much pressure on all of the things. But I think, ultimately, if you don't have, like, however you're making a living and supporting yourself is sort of at the center of a lot of that, right? So I think there's a big, like, maybe the big anxiety is just, it's been kind of a marathon, right?
It has to be perfect.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
That's a little bit what it sounds like.
I think so. Yeah. I think there's a lot of buildup and a lot of pressure to this life that we've, been working towards here, and I've been working towards here. And maybe that is part of it, but I think it's also just, I had all of those things happen with the visa where, like, the savings were depleted, and I'm very scared to ever go back to that, right? That level of uncertainty and potentially needing to go back to the US and kind of start over again,
Well, a couple of questions, right? Okay. You depleted your savings. Have you been able to build it back up?
Not really.
Or not to the full extent, but are you on a path? Like, do you have enough money coming in?
Yeah.
Right. Currently. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have enough money coming in.
Yeah.
And you are on a path to rebuild savings.
Yeah. Yeah. So
you're not struggling with huge debts at this moment.
I mean, I have the debt, but I am like comfortable in the sense that I have a plan. Like, I have things kind of figured out where I'm not worried about like keeping the lights on or anything like that.
Okay.
I think the fear is more, I know that how do I put this? Like, if I have one day where I'm off or I'm anxious or I'm dealing with visa stuff or I'm whatever, that I lose that money, and then I'm like that much further back, or I'm that much closer to going back to where that was. It's like there's a lot of pressure there.
Yeah. But Lauren, a lot of this pressure, for a little bit of a reframe, all of this pressure is self-imposed. Like, if you go back to the facts of where you're at right now, you're not exactly where you want to be financially, but you have enough money coming in. Yeah. You're doing okay. And sure, is there a future where you could deplete your savings again? You have to go back to the United States. Yeah. But is there also a future where you build this incredible business and you do really well? So we don't need to be over here on this worry when this possibility that's not a worry exists as well. All things are possible. Mm-hmm. So I think, like, are you talking to a therapist?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I think that the continued work of like just breaking this big ball of yarn apart, it's like a knot, because there's a completely different way to look at this, which is you saved for it. You knew that you were not going to be able to work for a year. So you had to go through that savings. You have your work set up, and you're moving it forward, and you're building things back up. Like, that's you had a dream, and you went and you did it. Like, that's frigging amazing from where I sit. I know it's scary. And, as a person with all kinds of financial, panic, like that just runs through me 24/7. Like, sometimes looking at my numbers calms me down. I get out my little financial doc and I go through like twice a month. Like, I pay on the 1st, I pay on the 15th. And I go through and I look at my notes and I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is coming in. This is coming in. And it's like, I talk myself down off the ledge when the anxiety comes. Are you able to do anything like that? Like, to reframe in real time and be like, oh, wait a minute. Why am I over here panicked about being back in the US? Like, who knows if that's even going to happen?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm getting a little bit better at doing that, but I struggle, just with the nature of how chaotic it's been with getting the visas and stuff. I've been such in a oh shit planning mode, for the past few years of like, just make it work. And so it's not easy to like celebrate the things you have accomplished in that mindset. And I think now that I was just talking about this the other day with a friend, like the house is no longer on fire. Now what? I think now it is a time where I can maybe celebrate what's gotten me here. It's kind of a pivotal. So in this fall, it will be 10 years since. So the thing that kept me back in the US was I was actually diagnosed with a chronic form of cancer. It's more of a low grade cancer, but it's enough where it kind of derails a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And my 10-year anniversary of that will be this coming fall. So it's kind of a moment of like a lot of full circle. I was living in Spain 10 years ago, and now I'm back here again. And I never thought I would be able to come back. And so there's a lot of beautiful things in that, but it's been so chaotic that I haven't fully been able to like honor that, I don't think.
Ooh, okay. That's so much more. Like you have just been through so much more than you even let on in the beginning of this interview. And we are going to probably come back to this, but I do want to say that I think you totally have to honor all of that, just the absolute progress that you have made in the last 10 years. And of course I wouldn't be me now if I didn't suggest that you have some kind of a party that involves community, that involves celebrating you, that involves all of the accomplishments it took to get back to Spain and to set up this business and to be able to do this. Like, it's no small thing, and I'm sure Steph is nodding, but there's no small thing to even just deal with the visa situation and to be able to I wish we could get Steph's big bulging eyes for that. Like, it's so much. Like, you've jumped through so many hoops. Like, you got to celebrate this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that might be a part of what's missing. Yeah, absolutely.
It sounds like you were like almost robbed of a lot of the choice that goes into deciding that you were like building this business and being freelance, because it's not like you moved to Spain and you were like, and now I'm going to set up this business and blah, blah, blah. It's like you tried all these other things. And I do think there's a piece there in like, even what I was saying with the littler things, like once you acknowledge that like this is something that you want, like a lunch break for 2 hours, and you like declare that it's your choice to do that, you can sort of like see how to celebrate it.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe you're like moving into this part of your life where your job and lifestyle and work is a choice that you're making.
Yes.
Rather than something that's happening to you.
Yes.
Right.
And this freelance lifestyle could be a bridge to something more permanent. It could be the thing that you're doing now while you try to find the setup that is more perfect for you. Like, you don't have to become comfortable with freelance. If you are going to stay freelance, I would suggest that would be a good idea to shake hands and make friends with all of the good and all of the bad that comes with it. But it's just like so many people, when they go to buy their first house or apartment, they get all freaked out. Like, this is forever. And I'm like, it's until you sell it. Like, that could be a year from now. That could be 10 years from now. It could be your forever house. Like, this job doesn't have to be forever for you. This could be the setup that got you to where you are today. Like, I say this to many people, but I feel like some real like visioning of what you want would be really, really wonderful for you. Like, what does your perfect work setup look like? What, like, without worries about money, time, visas, what would you create for yourself? And what does that look like in all areas of your life? Like, how do you celebrate yourself? How do you relax? How do you, come into the culture? Like, you're already starting with language lessons. So it's just like, I just love to see you just give yourself permission to just be like, what do I want?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think it's interesting, like the element of choice. I sort of stayed in the US against my not against my will, but the plan was always to return to Spain. And because of getting cancer, I had to stay. And then now that I'm here, it was sort of like, oh, well, these are the kinds of jobs that you can do, or the types of contracts you can have. And so I think the word that's coming up, and this is kind of more, it's a whole separate conversation, but like it comes up more with the cancer stuff, is like surviving. And I think, I feel like there was such, especially when I was dealing with the cancer, there's just such a focus on surviving, and surviving is really not,
That's not living.
Yeah, exactly. I have a little bit of like bitterness with that, 'cause I'm like, well, that's just sort of existing to live another day, which, I mean, in some cases is an accomplishment, but also like, you're not really living what you want to be living, and you're not, experiencing things to the fullest. So I think I like the idea of thinking about, like, I haven't spent a ton of time thinking about what I want. I mean, I do feel, in terms of the work I'm doing, I feel really lucky to be in the space I am. Like, I'm in the climate solutions space. I was working as a regular employee back in the US in that space as well. So I feel lucky that I kind of accidentally got into that world, several years ago. But I feel really lucky to be doing work that's like meaningful and makes a difference and all of that. So there's a lot of really good things working in there. But I think in terms of, I'm still figuring out, I guess, the exact like perfect scenario. And I haven't even, I think you're kind of hitting on something. Like, I don't even think I've allowed myself to imagine that, because I don't even know if I thought I would ever get here and be in this situation.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Who does that sound like?
It sounds
Robin?
a lot like producer Steph.
I have literally said those exact sentences so many times to Robin. And the whole time you're speaking, I'm just like thinking of the ways that I use language to minimize my choice in situations. So like, even just then you're like, I accidentally got into this space. Like, but you also
you're
continually
qualified.
Yeah, you're qualified. You like choose every day to continue being in that space. Yeah. You in a lot of ways have proof that you like are a badass human who has like survived so many things, made decisions, moved across the globe, not even the country. Like, you've done all of these things that could be proof to yourself that when you make choice, you can do it.
Yeah.
But instead, like, our anxiety reframes it and like minimizes it as like, oh, this thing happened to me and I'll figure it out, I guess, maybe.
And I would also like to say, Lauren, just as like from my heart, is that like, you casually dropped in around minute 28 a cancer diagnosis, which I do love a late drop of information. But it's like before that, you had already mentioned some very difficult and hard things to deal with, moving across the globe, like spending down all your savings and waiting to be able to find work, setting yourself up for work, a cancer diagnosis. These are really hard life events. And I would just love to see you be gentle with yourself. And to give yourself some space. It's like all of this is going hand in hand with allowing yourself to dream and also being kind to yourself, because these are just not small things that you've been through and that are on your plate still. And everything that you have done in reaction to that seems super logical. And of course, that's what would happen. So, but that doesn't, to Steph's point, you can choose to reframe and to go, okay, I'm going to make a turn here. Like, I'm going to make a turn here. I'm going to be a little gentler, a little kinder, and I'm going to be a little more intentional rather than surviving.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting turn. It's an interesting path. It's different, and nothing has to change except for your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Easier said than done, of course. I mean, I just have to say that, right? I mean,
like,
obviously.
And let me know.
Yeah. Let us know how that goes. Would you please? Thanks.
No, I mean, I think it is one of those things where I've had like moments of this here where, it's hard not to, because just physically being here and realizing like, oh, I'm actually doing it. Like, I'm living here, and I'm dancing here. I dance flamenco, and that's a big part of my life. And I get to do that here in Spain, which was crazy because I was doing most of that in the US. So, I'm having a little bit of those moments of like, oh, cool. Like, I have a little recital coming up and my friends are going to come see me. So it's like, it feels really exciting, but I haven't fully, celebrated. And I think there's a little element of that fear of like, if I'm not super vigilant, if I'm not watching out, like if I celebrate too much, like this is all going to collapse, or like something's going to fall through. And I think
we're super guilty of that thinking. Like, God forbid we celebrate ourselves because someone will take it away because you of hubris. And it's just not fucking true. It's just not. Like, we're so mean to ourselves in that way of not allowing ourselves to celebrate and to be thankful for just like, I don't know. I just like, if there's a God out there, I don't know. I'm hard pressed to believe they'd be that cruel that if you celebrate yourself, they go, you snotty bitch, and then they take it away. Like, I just, if a God would use that language, but I don't know why we do that to ourselves. Like, why we get into a space of like, God forbid we say, well, that was really wonderful. It's just, it's so mean to ourselves. And if we had a kid, and I happen to have a couple of them, and I saw them doing that, I'd be like, don't say that about yourself. I'm so proud of you. If you had a friend, you would, but to ourselves, we're like, you better shut up and don't be thankful.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very, and it kind of reminds me, it's that survivor mindset, right? Because if you're surviving, celebrating is like almost a waste of energy, right? But I think if you're living, that's the opposite. You're actually living it, and you're feeling the feelings and experiencing it. But it's so hard to, if you've been in that space for so long, like, flip the switch to like
it
living
is.
again.
And you will, and you'll catch yourself, like, you'll make the right turn. You'll start trying to thrive a little bit, and then you'll catch yourself back on the other road. And that's that mindfulness work of just resetting, restarting. Every moment you can pop back over to the other road. They're parallel in a lot of ways. They're next to each other. So you have the ability to pop back over there. I mean, I think our homework to you is really simple, is to dream and to live. Like, allow yourself, however that looks for yourself, and all those little things of like setting some work hours, those are all going to come out of the dreaming. Like, I think they're all going to write, you're obviously very resourceful. So that's all going to write itself if you start allowing yourself to look at things a little differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dream up your life, and then acknowledge when you're doing the things today that are, putting you towards that. That's really cool and really beautiful.
Yeah. And this is more technical, but I really like, you mentioned like off days and on days. Like, I think there's maybe one day a week that I'm not doing something and even then, like, maybe Sundays I actually have off, but mostly I'm like doing laundry, getting ready for the week, whatever. But those off days, like, I'm thinking about like what we're talking about with just acknowledging what I've accomplished, being even just living here. Like, if I have a day where I'm like literally not doing anything, like just getting a coffee and like sitting in a plaza, like, that is what this all has been for, right? Like, this is, we live like 10 minutes from the sea. I mean, every now and then I'll walk past with my dog or something, but just going and like sitting and just being there, like,
pack a lunch, those kinds of things. Be more intentional about that. I love that. I've been messing around with my schedule lately and being like, can I like power through a Monday to Thursday and then take some Fridays off? And I'm still trying to figure out if I like it or not, because I like the day off, but it also makes my Monday through Thursday a little stressed out. Yeah. So it's like, I just think there's that constant refining of what it means and what it looks like. And there could be weeks where that's an option and then weeks where it's not. And I think if you allow yourself to approach it in that way, you'll figure all that out very quickly. And it'll be an ongoing thing. It's like I said, it's that handshake between you and freelance.
And everything is ongoing.
Yeah.
Like, your visa shit is going to be forever. Like, I have constantly been like, okay, and once I figure this out, then this will happen, or blah, 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 and this will happen. And it's like, I just realized at some point I have a certain level of anxiety that exists every week of my life. And regardless of the things that are actually happening, I will just plop that around, like next week it'll be visa. The week after it'll be finances. The week after it'll be all my friendships, like whatever it is. Yeah. All of those things are going to continue to happen. It's just like acknowledging that, like, right here, right now, you're in a place that could be celebrated. I actually want to say this. This was like a really cute moment. Yesterday, I flew into LaGuardia, which is like the airport in Queens. And they have this like new path that they built in the airport where you're like walking along the tarmac, basically, but inside. And you can see the skyline of like Manhattan. And the sun was setting, and I like was looking out the window, and I'm like huffing and like rushing in that like sea of people getting off the airplane. And I actually like stopped and like sat down and was like looking at the skyline of Manhattan as the sun was setting. And I was like, what a beautiful thing that like I live in this fucking city. Like, I did that, And like, I didn't fully own it in that moment. I wasn't like, I did that, but I was like, what a beautiful city. Like, I can't believe I live here. Like, that's so cool, blah, blah, blah. And I want that for you. Like, I want that for me too. I want like more moments where I'm like actually taking ownership of the fact that I moved myself to New York City.
Yeah.
I hear that in what you're saying so much too, that is just like acknowledging that you did this thing and you're continuing to do these things, and they're part of a dream that you set for yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that 100% to myself in the way that I'm saying it to you, because I also do not do that.
No, I mean, I think I'm like, we've been here for 2.5 years, and I feel like I'm just beginning to have some moments like that. Like, there's we found this like hole in the wall little bar by our house that has this open mic on weekends. That's like a beautiful Spanish patio with like the vines and all that. And it was just like this, we went to that the other night and we're like, this has been here for years. And we just like happened to see it now. Like, it was just this really beautiful moment of like, oh, we're in this beautiful cosmopolitan artsy city that's by the sea. And like, you forget, I don't know, it just feels like such a luxury to even look around. And I think there's also, in terms of the like, I did this, I think I have a little bit of, I don't know if imposter syndrome is the right word, but definitely like not giving myself the credit, like, yeah, I guess, yeah. Of like, damn, like this was hard and this is kind of a badass thing to do. And I did it. But like, that feels too gratuitous to say to myself somehow,
All right. Well, now we've added to the homework. I did this should become part of your vocabulary. I did this. Like once a week, look at something and go, I did this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you did.
I did this and I choose this.
Yeah.
Or I chose this.
I like that. And I feel similarly with the work as well. Like I just did like a 6-month report on metrics for one of the accounts I manage. And it was like, everything was really great and knocked it out of the park kind of a thing. And that's been like oh, holy crap. Like I did this, I'm doing this, I'm doing a good job. Like that is a lot to digest as well, in light of all the craziness that's happened.
Listen, but you're doing it in real time. You just did your first, I did this. That's amazing. Just more freedom, more living, more, I did this. And you're going to do great. You're already doing great.
I mean, I'm trying. I don't even want to take credit for that. Ugh, it's funny.
I know. But you know what? We're going to hold the space of you are doing it for you until you can do that for yourself. But we're all just trying. Like we all have the answers and we all struggle to implement them. And I think that's the whole point of these talks is for us to see ourselves and other people, to see that we're not alone, and to see that just trying is enough. And that's why I love that, you were willing to come in and have this conversation with us, because I think it's helpful for not just you, not just producer Steph, not just me, but anyone listening, because we can all see ourselves in what you're saying in this anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can really see myself. So just like a looking in the mirror moment for me.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And listen, keep us posted. I want updates. I'm invested now. So
sounds good. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So this was a great chat, right? And after we record, I sometimes wonder how the advice or the picking apart of a guest's problem sat with them, and like, how did it make them feel? Well, with Lauren, I didn't have to wonder, because the very next day after the interview, she sent us a voice memo.
Hi, Robin. Hi, Steph. It's Lauren again. I just wanted to send kind of a follow-up note from our conversation yesterday. And I just wanted to apologize because I think I clammed up a little bit. And I just don't think I got everything out that I really meant to or was meaning to talk about. And I think it kind of derailed our conversation a little bit. So I feel like I'm doing everything on paper that I should be doing, right? Like I'm doing the breaks, I'm doing the right things in quotation marks to take care of myself. But no matter what, I'm always working on something. And it doesn't seem like there's a lot of like actual downtime. It's just like this constant grind of something, whether it's that something is billable or not billable. And I think the problem I was running into, and the reason I wanted to talk, was because it felt like the non-billable things were sort of taking over and not letting me maybe be as productive as I wanted to be, because there's just so much like life maintenance going on. I've been kind of mulling over this ever since we hung up yesterday, because I feel like I wasn't quite clear coming in, and it was just nerves.
So when I listened to this, first of all, I laughed, because she, like a lot of our guests, worries that, I don't know, was my story clear? Was it concise? Did I do it right? But I'm here to tell you folks, you can't do your story wrong. So just take deep breaths. But then, as I kept listening to her voice memo, something just really lovely happened for me. she turned into her own expert of the day. Listen to this.
But I think, where we got yesterday and in terms of like the takeaways, I think are actually unexpectedly the same. In the sense that taking like quality breaks, not just breaks, but like actual quality breaks where I can actually enjoy what I've done, the fact that I'm here, physically be here and actually register that. Maybe that, I think that is a big piece of what's missing. Sorry for the screaming kids and motorbikes. Anyway, I really appreciate our chat. And I hope that is a helpful session regardless of my kind of lack of clarity at the beginning. And I will keep you updated and hopefully send you photos of the big party in October. All right, take care.
I don't know, you guys, but I just think that was pretty freaking awesome. I mean, Lauren, you do have it all in you. You know what to do and how to do it, because I just listened to you tell me. And I think that we all generally do know what to do. It doesn't make it easy to implement, but I don't know. I find something comforting in the fact that we can all get there with just a little help from some friends who are willing to help us, pick our problems apart. And today, for me, it was an honor to shine a light and help you see things a bit more clearly, Lauren. You got this. I mean, we all got this. Okay, that is it for today, friends. Thanks again to Lauren for joining us and to all of you for listening. For more Robin, and you may need that, you probably don't need it, but if you do, you can follow me at Real Rob Hops on all the platforms, all the socials, as the kids today say. Well Adjusting is an Edit Audio original series. It's exec produced by Steph Colburn and Robin Hopkins. Our producer and editor is Maria Passingham, and our production manager is Kathleen Speckert. Thank you to the entire Edit Audio team and to you for listening. Oh, hey, before you take out those AirPods, this show is just for entertainment. If you are in need of help, please, please, please reach out to a professional. Go ahead and get that help. You deserve it.